everyone, and welcome to the online presentation of the Castle Shannon Borough Streetscape Improvements covering the areas of Phase 1. This has been prepared for the Castle Shannon Borough and the Castle Shannon Revitalization Corporation by KU Resources. And my name is Dave Homan. I'm a senior landscape architect and project manager at KU Resources, and I've been working with the borough for several years on this exciting new project. Let's start with an overview of the entire municipal limits of the borough. The borough is a large amorphous shape with Mount Lebanon Township to the north, Bethel Park, and Whitehall Borough on the south and the east. And we've included a few of the main roads, Mount Lebanon Boulevard, Castle Shannon. Everyone knows what the Ice Castle is, just so everyone can kind of get their bearings. The streetscape improvements, looked at these main areas through the borough, the main areas that most people drive, visitors and residents alike, and the impact that improvements on these streets would have on improvements for the merchants and people coming to the municipal area. The area in green here, superimposed on the previous map of the borough, are the detailed study areas that was determined by the borough and my company that are the highest impact areas that improvements for the borough would bring benefits to the merchants and give a sense of place for Castle Shannon. So you've entered Castle Shannon, you know where you are, and it has its own character. So these areas predominantly were from Mount Lebanon Boulevard down Castle Shannon. We did study a pedestrian walkway between the Castle Shannon Pat station, the other Willow station, and connectivity to the lower area of Willow and Castle Shannon Boulevard. Unfortunately, we didn't have the budget at this time to take that very much further. And then the study area also was Upper and Lower Willow, a lot of shopping along there. And then we studied looking at an ADA ramp from Lower Willow to get up to the Willow station, which is something very important to the residents and very important to the borough. Of that entire study area from Mount Lebanon Boulevard clear down to Library Street or Route 88, this is the area that we determined was going to be our Phase 1 area, as it is an area that our budget from PennDOT, our funding from PennDOT will cover, and it addresses the biggest bang for the buck to do improvements in the merchant core and the business core for Castle Shannon. The first area of this Phase 1 that we'll look at in greater detail is Castle Shannon Boulevard, the western portion of Castle Shannon in our Phase 1 study area, from Myrtle Street down to the intersection with Willow and the Pat tracks. This is the first enlarged view to give everyone an idea of the character for the streetscape. We're looking at brick paving, and we'll analyze and look at the brick paving versus the current paving that's out there today. And we're going to have new street lights, new street trees where we can squeeze them in. Again, it's a challenging area with narrow streets, narrow sidewalks, and then overhead utilities. But one advantage of this sidewalk on Vides is that it's a relatively wide sidewalk, 12 feet or more or less in some areas. And so we're going to take advantage of that and create some gathering spaces, some areas for pedestrians with seating, with some colored plants in pots rather, and we'll have street lights with colored banners and flags. So we want to create some richness and start setting the tone as you're entering from the northwest, from Mount Lebanon Boulevard, coming into the business area of Castle Shannon. The next area we're looking at is in an enlargement is the remainder of the Castle Shannon Boulevard in our study area, which is from the intersection with Willow and the train tracks clear down to the end of Castle Shannon Boulevard, down to Library Street. As I mentioned before, it's challenging doing streetscape improvements with narrow sidewalks. You have to maintain a minimum accessible width for people to walk and or with their walkers or wheelchairs. And then we still want to try to beautify and add as many trees as we can. This area is no exception that we have very narrow walks, we have overhead utilities, and it's challenging, but we think we can still make a lot of improvements here with the same family, brick paving everywhere, putting in some street trees where we can, and grouping planters where we have a little more room, maybe some overhead utilities, but we can group in some pots and planters to add some color throughout the year. And we've looked at improving this area next to the treasure shack. It's a special area that we think we can make into a gathering space, a people space, somewhere you want to be. And we'll look at that in more detail in the future. Also, throughout all projects of the areas of the project, we're improving the ADA accessible ramps and crosswalks. Other than they are, a lot of them are worn out and somewhat unsafe today, it is a requirement of the funding source from PennDOT that all of these ramps be improved to keep up with the current regulations. The next study area is Lower Willow. It is south of Castle Shannon Boulevard, adjacent to the Ice Castle and the Castle Shannon T-stop, and has some shopping and other barbershop and other business entities in that area. Here's an enlargement of Lower Willow, brick paving, street lights to match all the other areas, so we have continuity throughout this the business area where we're doing improvements. We'll have all the same street lights, we'll have all the same paving, we'll have some where everybody knows you are in the area. You're in the area, the business district of Castle Shannon, because everything will be united. And an advantage is down there, Muddy Paws and the Dance Conservancy. It's another nice area that's wider, nice wide paving that we can take advantage to do some more seating, some bench groupings, planters. Of course, when you get groups of people, you need trash receptacles, so they have somewhere to put the trash. Some bike racks. As we get pedestrians, we're going to get bikers, so we need to provide bike racks for them. And again, the light poles are going to be improved with banners and flag holders. So that's going to be one of the really nice areas of Lower Willow because we have room. But then the rest of the area, we're going to get new street lights, street trees where we can, and again, improve all the ADA ramps. One thing that the borough and I have been looking at is a future accessible ramp from Lower Willow Avenue, a ramp that would go up about 12 feet in height to get pedestrians up to the Willow Station. So the borough has been thinking about this for some time. I've done some preliminary design, but unfortunately our budget right now won't support building that. So that is something that we're planning for the future that hopefully we can make happen soon. Our last enlargement area that we want to look at for this first phase is Upper Willow. Upper Willow has businesses, it has some residential areas there too, and Kimmy's on the corner, and it's another busy area, a lot of pedestrian and street traffic in there that we want to improve that, so the whole area of this phase is all congruous. We all have similar character, and you know that you've arrived in Castle Shannon. Here's the enlargement of Upper Willow. Again, a little challenging down by the coffee shop where it's very narrow. We have very little latitude for trees or other improvements, but we're going to put in really nice brick paving, get the same street lights. Everyone has the same street lights. It's going to be really cool with the flags and the banners and all that throughout the entire area. We have some advantage here on Park Avenue next to Kimmy's. Again, we have wider sidewalks. So we're going to get some groupings of planters. It may not be an appropriate place for benches, but it's an appropriate place to put planters to beautify that area, beautify the intersection. And we've also, I've recently been tasked, not too long ago from the borough, to convert some of the parking right on this corner, Park Avenue and Willow. There's 4 parking spaces there that traditionally don't get a lot of parking use. So we're looking at getting rid of some of that hardscape and making this area into a little pocket park with some more green space, more trees. more benches, another place to gather and attract people. Eat your sandwich there, go grab a cup of coffee, people watch, talk about the morning news. We're thinking it's going to be a really cool, vibrant place in the streetscape improvements. And we're looking at the big picture in the previous slides, but let's get down on the ground level together and kind of look at what we have today and what we're planning for tomorrow with the streetscape improvements. Here's a shot, a photograph of some of the existing paving. The paving throughout most of the business district, the merchant area, phase one, are these unit pavers. These are concrete pavers, very prevalent in the 70s and 80s, very popular. Problem with them is they do fade and lose kind of their color and their ambiance. So here's some of those pavers are miscolored, discolored. You can see where we have settling issues, which is a concern because that's a trip hazard along here. And this is another good example where a street tree has not made it. It was just filled in with pavers. And we'll talk more about street trees here in just a moment. Here's another area of the typical pavers. Again, settling pavers, disjointed pavers, creating trip hazards, a little hard, not a lot of room to get through. And then that's a very tight space for an urban tree to grow in. So in the improvements, other than using a different paver with a more rich texture that will last the test of time, we're also looking at making larger areas for the trees. So they have a better chance of surviving. Also, here is one of your existing streetlights. Seemed like a very good light in its day, and it's probably stood the test of time for quite a while. One thing we can notice here is the polycarbonate lens here has gotten real cloudy over time. That's perfectly understandable and normal just for the age, but what it does is it does block a lot of the light transmission. So the actual light coming out of here is probably reduced dramatically just because of the age of the equipment and then the glass of the polycarbonate lens. And then also, you have wonderful banners. Here's an example of your hometown heroes. But then you have banners that are made out of PVC pipe that the borough has mentioned are really difficult to maintain and keep in order. So we want to look at improving that as we move forward. Here's an example. This happens to be Lower Willow, where we see kind of some mismatched planters. We have a variety of odds and ends and planters throughout the borough. Here's a couple square concrete, some vase-shaped round ones, and so we're a street tree kind of struggling to get by. Some patched up paving. Some paving's been ground down after it raised up. It was a tripping hazard. Some of the old pavers. So this is a big area. We'll look at it in the future here in the presentation as an opportunity for some real nice improvements. Here's an example which is kind of prevalent throughout the phase one area. Is an ADA ramp, which is really unsafe. The curb is all deteriorated. The pavers are uneven. It's a challenge for someone in a wheelchair, someone with a walker, someone infirm to get across there. And again, it is a requirement from the funding from PennDOT, the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, that all of these ramps and crosswalks have to be upgraded to be in accordance with the current regulations, which will happen within the project. And here's an example. That's where a street tree used to be. He has a little more room, or had a little more room to grow than this guy up here, who's still with us today. But this is a normal occurrence that in urban areas, it's difficult for street trees to survive. And it's just the way of the world. This is nothing particular to your area. It just happens. And here's one up near Vides that got cut off. And a small area, it made it to the almost maturity. That's about a 12 or 14-inch tree. But we can see that, it's time for rejuvenation. It's time for some new trees and some more green. It happens all the time. And your streetscape has kind of lived its life cycle. And now we're looking forward to doing something new. And now we'll take a look at the design elements that we are planning on using for the new streetscape. And this is a slide that shows the site furniture, the bench, the trash can, and the bike rack that's kind of all in the same family. And I'm pleased to say that these are all made locally in Butler, PA by a real nice local company, Keystone Ridge Designs. They make a very high quality product, have a very good warranty, stand behind their products. So I'm really glad to be using their site furniture. Uh, we'll start out, we will have new trash cans throughout the municipality, kind of keeping in the same family of the bench. Flat lid, hole for trash, plastic liner, easy for staff to empty and clean out. And then we're using a 6-foot bench, perfect size to suggest people can get together, have a sandwich and talk and gather. And one of their simple loop bike racks, you can tie 2-3 bikes to it. But what we're going to do to make it a little special is we're going to put in the Castle Shannon logo. We're going to customize with the Castle Shannon logo between the spans of the bike rack. And this will be a perpendicular traffic flow. So you're going to immediately see that logo and have an idea of where you're at. And while the standard stock image for the bike rack is black, I also want to note that our site furniture will be black as well, in that we chose to go with black. There's a lot of pigment in black paint, and it is one of the longest lasting color finishes we can have for something that's exposed to the weather. Some of the other custom colors with less pigment will fade over time, and that's very unpleasant to the eye. Some of them chalk, get a little bit of scaliness to them, and black paint rarely ever does that. So it will look gorgeous today and look gorgeous 20 years down the road. We want to take a look at the other site improvements that we're going to use along here to make this great jump forward in the streetscape for Castle Shannon. Starting with the brick paving, we're going to use an antique red actual clay paver, full color, the entire depth. They don't fade. They are full depth. They will be this same rich color today as it will be tomorrow. And we're going to use a herringbone pattern, which is putting the pavers on a 45-degree pattern, 45 degree to the pedestrian walking. It gives the sense of making the sidewalk visually wider, and that's always nice to do, especially since many of our sidewalks are quite narrow. And then throughout the areas that I mentioned before, where we have room, we're going to put groupings of large planters, 2-foot, 2.5-foot diameter, up to 4 or 5-foot diameter planters. Glass reinforced concrete. It is a specialized concrete product that is stronger than concrete, but much lighter, which saves in shipping costs and also helps the borough if they have to move them around for snow removal, etc. But also gives us more opportunities for colors and textures on the outside. So they're going to be really exciting to have these planters in groupings throughout the municipality, tying everything together, but with beautiful seasonal color that the borough will maintain. And we looked at your existing lights, and we're going to come in with a new cast iron light with a traditional acorn type light. But the advantage we're going to be doing here is that, again, we'll have all new lenses that would be better polycarbonate than 20, 30 years ago, that is resistant to yellowing and fading. But better yet, we're going to have LED lighting technology in there rather than the typical lighting. LED is much more efficient, much less cost than electricity, gives a really nice bright white, and we're also going to have from the factory custom banner arms, no more PVC arms on there. And then also, we couldn't show it with this light here, we're also going to have a custom flag holder, so we can have the stars and stripes on every light pole during events or whenever the borough would prefer to have them displayed. And now to come full circle, we've talked about where we're going to study, we're talking about what was there, what's there today, and where we want to go tomorrow. And sometimes I think it's just easier for everyone to understand and see things in 3 dimensions. So we did several, what we call photo simulations, where we take an existing photo and then we design on top of it to give you an idea of what it's really going to look like in real time. So the first area we studied was Lower Willow, where we talked about in there the dance studio and Muddy Paws, that there's a lot of room there. And what we've done there is we took a look at the existing condition. We have some pavers, we have some concrete, we've got the mismatch of planter, the thing we looked at before. And we did design studies, we do little sketches. And the sketches that developed into the design We did a 3D graphic that comes out looking like this. You can see the richness and the warmth of the paving. We had different benches and potting groupings that encourage gathering, encourage discussion. Bike rack here, you know, if we're going to come down here and shop, and if we're going to have more pedestrians, more bikers, we want to have bike racks to accommodate those bicycles. And also the lights, the flags, the banners, and then there's even more paving down near the barber shop and so forth down through there. So this is just one image to kind of give everyone an idea of where we're going. The street trees are here. They're just a little bit transparent, so they don't just dominate everything. You can still see the lights and the banners beyond. Our second three-dimensional study is on the eastern portion of Castle Shannon Boulevard, down by Moonstones and American Legion. A little wider. We don't really have room here, as we did in the previous example, for benches to encourage gathering and so forth. But we can get in some planters. We can get in some more street trees. We can get in some more beautification. So here is the paving, some more pots, lots of planters. We happen to have a trash can on the corner. Good way to catch people crossing the street, going both ways, catch their trash. New street trees, and even across the creek over here, we got some more lights and banners over there tying the whole area together. So this just gives you an idea of what the pedestrian area in Castle Shannon, the eastern end, is going to be, and gives you a little better understanding of where we're going with the project. Our last photo simulation, I had mentioned earlier briefly when we were looking at the enlargements, is the triangular area at the intersection of Castle Shannon Boulevard, where Willow crosses the tracks, and right adjacent to the Port Authority tracks, right next to the Treasure Shack. This is kind of an unassuming place today. Not very inviting, kind of bleak. The same tan, washed out pavers, some planters, or at least one planter there. No real reason to be there, no reason to go there. We did some studies on how we can brighten this place up and make it somewhere to be. And our design ended up looking like this in 3D. We're going to have some more street trees. We'll have to be careful with the street tree selection with overhead utilities and the nearby tracks. But we want to get some more planters, lots of color. Get the lights in there, the new lights, better light, more security, more secure feel. The banners, the flags, benches, seating options, somewhere to gravitate to. It's a great place to people watch. You know, there's people walking nearby, going to the Ice Castle, people shopping on Castle Shannon Boulevard, Willow, grabbing a coffee at Willow, grabbing a sandwich at Kimmy's, etc. So we want to make this a little bit of a mini destination within the community. We think it's a neat little place, a little overlooked place that we can make it attractive, draw people there, somewhere to go meet, to grab a sandwich at lunch, and see all the goings on that's going around throughout the borough, because everybody's going through here in Castle Shannon. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this presentation on the Castle Shannon Phase 1 Streetscape improvements. And on behalf of myself, Dave Homan, with KU Resources, the Castle Shannon Borough, and the Castle Shannon Revitalization Corporation, we thank you for your time. And please follow up on the Castle Shannon Borough website, as they will be having a brief questionnaire for your attendance after you see this presentation. So once again, thank you very much and have a wonderful day. Thank you.